Hey guys, and welcome back to another Star Wars podcast, Bad Batch Breakdown Series, our final review for Bad Batch. How are you feeling today, Matt? We are at the end.
Sad. I feel sad. We've reached the end of a season. I feel like we've been doing this show for years at this point, but it's only been a couple months, and it's like our first season of our little show done. So it's kind of sad, but I feel good. I think it all went really well. I think it was a great season. There's a lot to talk about. Now we can kind of give that comprehensive review of what we thought, the season was as a whole. So I feel good. And I mean, I'm a little nostalgic about it. It's done and I'm kind of let down.
It is very weird because we've been doing the show since May, and that doesn't seem like super long ago, but I literally feel like we have been doing this for forever.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been an experience. It's been fun, and I think that's what's important. And it's fun to participate with the listeners and other fans of Star Wars and hear the theories and kind of ramp into this new age Star Wars era we're kind of going into right now.
Yeah. I don't think we have any Star Wars news to open the show. I didn't see anything, at least this past week, unless you did.
I did. There is Star Wars news. You are missing out on a key casting thing that was announced starting the Ahsoka show.
Yes, I'm such a noob. Why don't you share that?
So Sabine Wren will allegedly appear in the live action Star Wars Ahsoka series starring Rosario Dawson. Sorry. So big news. That means Rebels character we're going to get in the new Ahsoka show.
That's true.
Exciting. It's not super surprising. Again, like makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole show is going to really tie in with Rebels, right? So I think it makes sense, but crazy awesome news. Like all this stuff's coming together. And so it's like, all right, things are happening. It's happening,
Yeah. And see, now all they need to do is just drop it somewhere that Tamora Morrison will be playing Captain Rex, and that I will be perfectly happy.
Yeah.
So all they have to do next is just say, hey, Tamora Morrison is coming in to play Captain Rex, and I would lose my freaking mind. So
how cool will that be? That'll be so awesome.
He has expressed interest. He did an interview on StarWars.com, I think in like 2017, where he was like, I'm just waiting for them to call me on Captain Rex. I was like, please.
I love him.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a treasure.
He is a national treasure, but not super surprising on Sabine. I am curious as to who they will pick, but it is really exciting to see all the threads coming together with Mina Masoon, Rosario Dawson. Hopefully Tamora Morrison joins the cast, and then the mystery actress that will play Sabine. So I'm hyped. So thank you for reminding me of that. I totally forgot about it.
Yeah, but big news. So we have more and more stuff to look forward to. Even though Bad Batch is ending, don't forget there's lots of other Star Wars content.
Yes. But let's get into this episode of Bad Batch. I have 3 pages of notes, but it's not on the episode. It's just over my general thoughts. But why don't you give me your overall thoughts of this episode? You can take us through a brief synopsis of what happens in this episode and then just give me your thoughts. The episode description on Disney Plus was the exact same as the last episode. So that doesn't really help with plot points, but do you want to kind of head us into that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was Kamino Lost is the name of the episode, right? And obviously we're losing Kamino, sad tear pouring out for Kamino, very sad moment. But essentially, if I could describe it, it's just the Bad Batch escapes Kamino after the Empire orders it to be destroyed. And that's pretty much what the whole episode was them trying to escape with Crosshair, right? The Bad Batch is together again, trying to escape together. Crosshair still being a stinky pants the whole time. They escape, I mean, it wasn't super eventful other than the fact that they were trying to get off the planet. I thought they would have probably got off a little sooner. But it's literally the whole episode. They are getting through the different areas of Kamino and trying to not drown essentially and figure out a way to get out of there and get back to the Marauder or whatever. And you know what? I mean, my thoughts overall is I thought it was good. I was a little let down, if I'm being honest, with the ending to the season. I thought they would have set some more stuff up for season 2. It seems very mysterious of what's going to happen in season 2. And that could be for good reason. That could be because they don't know yet. So they don't want to give away too much and set themselves up for something that they can't really deliver on necessarily yet. And they want to plan it out better. But I'd say the biggest takeaways from this were we get the batch together again. Crosshair still being a stinky pants. We don't know if his chip, we got no more information on that or not. We don't know if the chip was actually taken out or not. I still think no. He's still holding his head in this episode a couple times.
Yeah.
I still think it's probably still in him. He ends up pouting most of the episode. And he was like pouting and being puffy and salty the whole time. But the biggest thing I took away from it was Mistress Nalise is her name now. We have kinky Mistress Nalise at the end, and we have this Imperial officer coming out with a Kamino patch that we see in Mandalorian. So that was my biggest takeaway from the thing. I didn't see. I mean, all it really told me was that next season we're going to get some more setup into how this ties more into the Mandalorian and other Star Wars shows that will be coming out. So it was good. Last episode was better in my opinion. I thought we'd have a little bit more information to set up season 2, but that's fine. I think overall they wrapped it up nicely. Looking back on the season as a whole, it makes sense. They did a great job. I'm very happy with it. You and I talked about this already over text, but the animation, incredible in this episode.
Oh my gosh.
Really worth noting. But yeah, what did you think?
So what you just said about them being mysterious with all of the threads, like we didn't get a lot answered in this episode, but now that you've brought that up, maybe they're trying to save some big reveals for Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. So maybe they're like explicitly trying not to answer anything because some of those answers may come in those shows.
Yeah, and then that'll make you more excited for Bad Batch and what could potentially happen. They could drop some names here and there and set some more stuff. You're totally right. So that's a very good point. It's important to keep that in mind. I think the main thing, though, that everyone expects these season finales to be a banger, but you also need to look at the comprehensive view of what the whole season was and what they gave you over the course of the whole season. And if we're looking at it from that point of view as a season wrap up and finale, they did an excellent job, I thought. Yes, there was a couple episodes that weren't perfect, but that's with any show. You can't expect the episode to be perfect. I thought they did a really, really good job connecting these pieces between the Republic and the Empire, seeing that transition. We got a lot of great world building Star Wars content this season. So even though the finale wasn't as much of a banger of an episode as I had expected, I still think it was great and it wrapped up nicely. They tied up some ends, leaving some mystery. The Crosshair was left on that platform in Kamino. I don't know why he decided to do that. Crazy. But, overall, I'm happy with the entire thing as a whole.
Yeah. And I have a hard time. So in thinking about, this episode. So first of all, I'm just going to lead with, I do think it should have been an hour after thinking about it, because the first episode opened with an hour and I thought that they were going to do the same thing with the end. And I feel like with cutting it off in the way that they cut it off with the first half of the finale, it just feel like it would have flowed better as a story if they let it be its own cohesive thing. So I don't really think that it was necessary that they split it into 2 parts. Yeah. Honestly, to be quite honest with you, there's been a lot of emotional moments throughout the series, but I think this episode had the most intimate character moments for me that I've been wanting to see. The stuff with Crosshair and Omega and that kind of complex dynamic. And then you have the whole Hunter and Crosshair and their ideologies and how they're challenging each other. It's well, you didn't come back for me. Oh, well, you didn't make an effort to come back. And they're kind of pointing the blame based on how that they've hurt each other. It's very much something that siblings would do, but nobody's really admitting to the fact that they screwed up. I really liked that. You remember how you brought up last breakdown episode, you said that you were going to be really mad if it just ended on a cliffhanger and then they somehow got out of it. I really appreciated the fact that they took their time getting out of that situation. That made sense to me. And I'm glad that they dragged that out as long as they dragged that out, because then you get some really good character conflict. It's stupid to me how good the animation is in the show. That cannot be overstated. And it was really just this was peak Star Wars animation.
I totally agree with on the point of take your time to get out. I did agree with that, but I think if they made it a little bit longer and would have showed us where are they going next, what's their plan? We don't have any idea. It's just all right, see you later, Crosshair. We're going to leave you on this platform. Okay, that's not very satisfying as a viewer, though. You want to have at least an idea of where they're going and what's to come next. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just where are you guys going to be living for the near future?
Right.
What's on the agenda?
Are you going back to Sid? Are you going to find Rex?
Yeah. Are you going to go find Rex? Yeah. Just throw a little nugget here and let us know, like, hey, this is what we plan on doing.
Yeah. I wish they had more of a lead with where the batch was going. Like, even if they just casually mentioned, like, Rex is calming us. You don't have to show us what Rex is saying, but it could have been something as simple as being like, we got a call from Rex. We need to take this, like, whatever. Yeah. Tiny moment. You can cut it off there. I do think, though, that they are saving a lot of reveals for Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. Now that Omega is officially like Boba's sister, I think we can 100% confirm that she's going to be in both of these shows in the future, at least at some point. So they just might be saving it and to allow the other shows to explore it. But I mean, overall, it was a great episode. The Crosshair thing, really quick. Do you think he's still being controlled? Because we got some interesting moments of him acting pretty much like himself, which is being an asshole 99% of the time. And then other moments where he seems like he's under its influence. What was your opinion on that throughout this episode?
I mean, he's grabbing his head too much. And we know they don't do those things on accident. That's like, they did the same thing with Wrecker. They left that up with like 5 episodes of him holding his head. I don't know. I mean, I think he's probably lying or doesn't know that his chip actually wasn't taken out. Maybe Empire lied to him and told him, hey, we took it out, but I don't think he knows. And there's interesting theories about it. And because Crosshair is kind of a dick and that's just how he is. I still think he's being influenced a little bit here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's so pouty. Like we were talking about, like towards the end of the episode, he's sitting there like on the platform, just being such a drama queen.
I can't tell because on the one hand, it's just so in character for Crosshair to be like that. On the other, it's kind of hard to tell the difference, like what's him being controlled and what's him being himself, because they're almost the same thing.
Character development on him to know, right?
True. Most of the development for the Bad Batch and Crosshair and Hunter specifically came within like these last 3 episodes. Like we got bits of it sprinkled throughout like the entire season, but within these last 3 episodes, that was the most development for any of those characters in the group that I've ever seen, at least in my opinion.
I agree. And I guess because we haven't really seen them together, for most of the season. So you see them together, you get that great line from Tech to him, which is like, just because I understand your view doesn't mean I agree with you. Cool line. It's like a lot of development right there between them two and like how their dynamic is now that they're all back together. I thought that was interesting, but you're right. I mean, we haven't really seen tons of character development with them all together. So it's really tough to analyze everything,
It is. And if you really want to break it down to its core, the entire show has been about the Hunter and Crosshair dynamic and how that break has shifted their relationship to each other. And what I've wanted to see more throughout the show, and we'll talk about this more at the end, is just the relationship to each other. Like, how did they hurt each other? Like, how does Tech feel about Crosshair leaving versus Wrecker? Like, we even got to see a little bit of Wrecker's reaction in this. Wrecker's like, you didn't try to come back. You're saying that we didn't come back, but you didn't even make an attempt.
What's the script on him? And we see Wrecker actually becoming kind of emotional for the first time. He's usually like the goofy, humorous guy. Oh God, my brain isn't working today. He's like the comic relief sometimes. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right.
And he flips the script on him. He's like, you didn't even try to come back. You had no interest. Like, we didn't come back for you because it didn't look like you wanted to. You were trying to kill us. And so now, like, that was interesting writing, I thought. And by the way, shout out to the writers. They've done an incredible job, like connecting me with these people, connecting the dots on all these things. Like, it's been very well done. And I think some of those, there's been a lot of really good scenes and lines like that have help rounded this whole thing out very nicely.
I noticed too, when I was sitting through the episode, I can't remember. I think it was one of the Ryloth episodes that Jennifer Corbett wrote. And I think I said in my reaction video, I was like, this dialogue just feels so real and natural. Like people would actually say this. She wrote this finale too. And whenever she writes episodes, I notice that the dialogue between the characters is always extremely well thought out and like carefully worded, but it feels like a real conversation that people would be having. It's like when Crosshair and Hunter are in their old barracks and they're arguing, like Hunter's like, a good leader protects his squad. Like that dialogue was so good. And it sounds like it's a conversation people would say. And so just kudos to her and the entire writing crew, because these interactions feel very natural. They don't feel forced in any way.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I was a little surprised by was, back to the crosshair thing for a sec. Like they leave him on this platform, right? And I did think someone was going to die. You got to add some weight to these finales and to the characters a little bit. And I thought, and I theorized on this, like maybe Crosshair ends up sacrificing himself to save the rest of the crew at the end or something like that. I think that would have been a little bit more interesting, especially now that we understood Crosshair more. It would have been a tough thing to see on screen because you can kind of sympathize with them a little bit more now.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little surprised that it seemed like they were kind of hinting towards that, and he kind of did something similar when he pulls out his gun and he saves AZ, and he looks like he's pointing it at, Hunter. So it was like kind of a moment like that. It just didn't have as much like weight. I was a little surprised by that, or like, he didn't necessarily have to die, but like some kind of something with a little bit more risk to it.
Yeah, and I can understand that because I thought something like that was going to happen as well. The other thing too is I thought like the closest that we got to a death was with AZ, and I thought AZ was going to get Pixar'd. I thought he was going to get the Pixar treatment because that was a total Disney Pixar death. And then it's a total fake out.
It was. No, I was like, oh, that's the one they're going to kill, AZ. I was like, who cares? We've seen him twice this whole season. God.
I thought that they were going to tank him, which I would have been fine with. But it's also weird because whenever I see AZ, I have this emotional association with him with Fives from the Clone Wars because AZ was a huge part of Fives' arc. So in this weird kind of way, I felt like AZ was representative of Fives being with the Bad Batch. I don't know if that's like kind of cheesy, but like that's how I felt about that. So I was like, no,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. He's a little stinker, but he's okay.
He didn't get the Pixar treatment, so he's fine.
I thought it would have been weird if they killed him out of all of them. I'm like, that's okay. That's all right, whatever.
On the whole like Crosshair thing, I am very happy that he still chose the Empire, but I am curious if he's still gonna pursue the Bad Batch in a vicious way like he was doing prior to them meeting up. So I wonder if that interaction with them is going to make his approach to them in the future a little less severe. I don't know, but I thought it was great that he was still picking the Empire at the end because that's more interesting than just having him be like, okay, we're fine. I'll go with you. So.
No, but it's just like we didn't get motivations for anyone leading into season 2. I'm like, I don't know. I think a little bit of like clarity would have been nice there, to have some kind of idea of where these characters are going to go. But we didn't get that really. No. So like, is he going to keep pursuing him? Who knows? He just seems like a pouty teenage girl right now. And he's like, I don't want to play with you guys right now. I'm going back to the Empire. And they're like, all right, fine. See you later, dude. We're not. So
I think honestly, my biggest critique for this episode is you don't really know where these characters are headed. And again, maybe that was intentional because they want the other shows to explore that. But it would have been nice to just have a moment of, we're going to go back to Sid. We're going to go back to Rex. We've got it, or call said person or Crosshair calming for the Empire to come get him. It was just a little vague, but the ending was a really, really good nugget because it's confirming our theories on the Mandalorian and those ties in. So that was great. And I'm very excited about that. Long time too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited about that. You can even see it in my reaction video. It's the only thing I really like freaked out to that whole episode because there really just wasn't that much information given. It was just like action, which is fine, cool animation, awesome, good storytelling. But there wasn't like there wasn't a ton of crazy things going on. But it was fine. I thought it was good. What did our listeners think? Did we get any questions this week?
I don't know if we did. Let's see. And if we didn't, that's totally fine. But let's double check here.
Yeah, if not, that's fine.
So, okay. So we do have a few. Yes. Okay. So Hidden Scribble is back as always. Thank you, Hidden Scribble, for being so consistent with your questions.
Yes.
Scribble's been on point.
So much for participating. Yeah, you have. You've had some great theories this season.
Yeah, Hidden Scribble, very observant. So, okay, Hidden Scribble says, I'm honestly kind of glad I was wrong about the Clone Avengers moment, as dubbed by me, as it left much more room for deeper moments between our core characters. Yeah, I agree with that. I think had they tried to do a big, like, Kamino uprising thing, it would have gotten really messy. So I am glad they kept it focused on the Batch and their escape from Kamino.
Yeah. Although we did get an interesting moment from a clone on the starship with Peter Pumpkin where he was like sounded distressed, you know? I thought that was a really interesting moment there where we confirmed there's definitely clones in the Empire still, but they don't sound too happy because he was like, all right, let's fire. And the guy was just like, all right, it's destroyed, you know? And that was on purpose, you know, like little seeds here. It's like, all right, he's clearly not stoked about this, you know, but he had to do it following orders kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a super interesting moment. And I still think there's seeds of like, I think they're probably still fleshing it out in the writer's room of how exactly they're going to do it. But I think we will see something like that in season 2. That's something I do feel pretty strongly about.
Yeah, I do think that we're still going to get a clone rebellion for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Hidden Scribble also says, with the experiments that we saw in Bounty Lost and the ending of the finale, we are definitely getting some further connection to the Mandalorian, the Rise of Skywalker, and Palpatine's contingency plan as a whole next season. What's your take on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see it in my reaction videos. When you and I have been talking about this all season, I 100% think that's the case. This was kind of confirmed with the Imperial officer with the Kamino patch on her uniform. Obviously, it does tie into Rise of Skywalker and you know the cloning stuff there, and then also Mandalorian. There was hints at this as well, so it has to tie in. That's the only thing that makes sense, right? So I think Mistress Nalase is she's going to be up to some sneaky stuff, but I get an Iden Verso type of vibe from her. Not Iden Verso. Sorry. What's his name? Rogue One. What's his name? Death Star guy.
Oh, her father?
The guy who. Yeah.
Galen Erso?
Oh my God,
Galen Erso?
Galen Erso. God, my brain isn't working today. Galen Erso. That's the vibe I'm getting. So I'm getting Galen Erso vibes from not Mistress Nalase. She doesn't seem to be happy. Like she doesn't want to be she tried to escape, right? She didn't want it's the exact same type of thing.
Yeah.
Galen Verso escaped, right? And then they came and brought him back. It's the same thing with her. So she may have a little trick up her sleeve here as well with some other stuff going on.
So you think she might try to sabotage them in season 2?
Potentially. I mean, she's not happy to be there, right? She's
right.
Like she got forced to go. And I guess the prime minister, Nalase or
Lama Su
got blasted. That's something not. Yeah, Lama Su got blasted, I guess. So he's not around. We have no mention of him whatsoever, which I thought was a little strange. But Nalase is being brought into the Empire against her will. I don't know. And she's clearly, she was up to something at Kamino. You know, she engineered these Bad Batch soldiers. So she could be, you know, she's not fully invested in the Empire. So I'm just saying, let's keep an eye on her. You know, we will watch her career with great interest.
We will watch her career with great interest, much like Omega. But yeah, I pretty much agree. I think they're starting to really make those connections obvious, and I'm very happy we got that nugget at the end. Let's see what else we have. Hidden Scribble also says, it's bittersweet that these breakdowns are coming to an end, but thank you guys for making the Bad Batch even more enjoyable for me. I look forward to hearing your insights as more Star Wars content releases. Thank you, Hidden Scribble.
Thank you, Hidden Scribbles. Thank you for participating. Don't worry, we'll have much more content in the future. We don't know what we're going to do in between the shows yet exactly, but stay tuned for that because we're not just going to not release content. So we'll still be doing some stuff here and there. But thank you for participating. And we have lots more stuff to look forward to. So, you know, thanks for tuning in. And this is not the end. It's just the beginning, luckily.
Woohoo. Yeah, thank you, Hidden Scribble. Your questions have been amazing. We love hearing from you. Zukong24 is back, and Zukong24 actually has a really interesting theory. The question is, will season 2 start with a time skip? And could Omega show up in Book of Boba? I don't know about the time skip. That could really be likely. They could jump.
Yeah, maybe that's why they didn't give information on where they're headed next. That's a very good point, Zukong. Wow, that's a good idea, because then we could potentially see Omega in Book of Boba Fett. I think we will, by the way. I think we're going to see her, like, for sure. Yeah, that's going to be like a big thing. I think maybe he never knew she existed, and he meets her like at a late stage in his life, and it's like a mind blowing thing. And then they time skip in Bad Batch closer to, like, you know, Rogue One, you know, time period, or maybe, you know, like it could be something like that. That's a really good point, though. They could definitely do that. Wow. Yeah, interesting.
They could go like a year later or something. Wow, I never even thought of that.
10 years later, honestly, and Omega's like 20 years old, you know, and she's a badass or something.
I'm really interested now to see if, like, how they would tie her into Book of Boba Fett and what kind of stories that they could tell with her there.
Well, we only got to wait a couple more months and we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess that's true. December. Let me see. I don't think we have any more. It doesn't look like we have any more questions, but that's okay. I mean, it doesn't really it's not a huge deal. Again, I think this was like a very tightly woven story, and they didn't give us a lot to theorize on. So
they were just trying to wrap it up, and we talked through a lot of theories and questions last week. It was a bit of a vanilla ending, but that's okay. Great season overall. I think that kind of leads us into our thoughts on the season as a whole. I'm very happy with it. I thought I wanted to see this period in between Republic and Empire, and they did a very, very good job of connecting those dots and helping it feel like the prequels and the original trilogy are intimately connected. And we got to fill in a lot of blanks. I'm stoked with the new characters we got. I love how it ties in with Clone Wars and Rebels and Mandalorian and potentially Book of Boba Fett and all these other things. And that's going to also, the season's going to age better and better as we get more Star Wars content that ties back into it.
Absolutely.
So I'm very happy with how it ended overall. There's about 3 or 4 episodes in here that are just awesome Star Wars content, like just classic good Star Wars content. So the bar was set high for the Star Wars shows to come with the first Mandalorian season, and they've continued to deliver on Star Wars content. So I'm excited to see where season 2 goes, and I'm excited to go along this ride and just kind of discover this stuff together. What did you think as a whole?
As a whole, I think that this first season was great. It is. It has a really strong writing, strong storytelling. I think the world building was the best aspect of the entire series. Like peak
so good
Star Wars, and they did a great job of making you go, oh, this is all interconnected. So major kudos to the writing team. This is some of the best animation I've ever seen in a TV series in my entire life. Just period. Yeah. Like it's stupid how good it is. All of my congrats to the crew. You can tell they worked so hard on it. D. Bradley Baker pouring out for that guy, because oh my God, I forget that he's all of them. The guy is insane. And like Michelle Ang as well as Omega, like she did an amazing job as Omega. So like kudos to both of them. They killed it.
Yeah, kudos to everyone on the team. Very, very good season. They really upped it up a level too. I mean, if you look what the first season of Clone Wars animation compared to Bad Batch now, absolutely killed it. We'll talk about it time and time again. So many of these scenes like looked real. Like it was amazing.
Like the freaking water in these last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
The fires on the stuff in the water. Like that's so stupid. Like I love it. It's so good. I love it.
It was so good. So well done. So congrats to everyone there. I'm very happy with it. I look at it as a comprehensive season. Sure, there's a couple episodes that some other fans weren't happy with. I'm happy with the whole thing. I think it was very, very well done. Very well thought out. The writing, the dialogue, the animation, the storytelling, like you said, the way they set these things up, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel corny. In fact, it feels very natural. Mm-hmm. So, and that's not easy to do when you're writing new content. And like, this is what I live for. I thought they did an excellent job with really exploring new ideas and pushing it a little bit, trying some different things out, introducing new characters, old characters. So as a big picture, excellent job. Wrap on Bad Batch season 1. I'm stoked about it. This has been so much fun to record, and we're going to keep doing it. And I can't wait. I'm even more excited for the other shows. I'm way more. I didn't have any expectations to Bad Batch going in. I said that in the first episode, but it definitely, it definitely showed that it was a worthwhile show to create.
Yes, I do agree. I'm really excited to see where they go in season 2, because I think the groundwork has been set. Season 2 is going to continue to have those big payoffs. Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian are going to add more payoffs to this show. And as season 1 is supposed to lay the groundwork, you're supposed to go, okay, who are these characters? How do they relate to the world around them? What's going on in the world? And how are we going to continue to delve into this more in season 2? I hope that we do dive into the Bad Batch as individuals and their characters a little bit more and how they relate to each other. Because I only felt like they only just started to touch on it within these last 4 to 3 episodes. And so I would like to understand their mindsets, like what they think about, what does Echo think about like joining Rex as opposed to the Bad Batch? Does he want to leave? Is Wrecker feeling super betrayed? Does Tech feel like, how do they all feel about this? So hopefully we'll see that explored more in season 2, and they have a lot of space to grow. I think a huge luxury that television has over film is that television can take its time. They don't have to tell a cohesive story in a 2-hour movie format. They're allowed to take the space to tell the story. And so I agree with you. I'm happy with what they did, and I think it's only going to continue to get better. I think it was great.
For sure. I agree. I agree in everything you said. So to all you listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this first season. I think we can all agree it was great. Of course, there was elements that weren't liked, but Melissa and I are going to be here. We're going to continue coming out with stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep following us and sending it to your friends. Leave us a review on Apple. Subscribe on Spotify. Go to Instagram and Twitter at @star_wars_pod. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Keep leaving your comments and keep participating with us because that's what makes this fun. So thank you to everyone who's joined us this far. I think it was a very successful first season for us. I'm very happy with where it went, but there's so much left out in the open that we can continue to break down with you guys. So we appreciate you and stay tuned for much more content from us. Anything, any last things to add, Melissa?
You should watch our career with great interest.
Well said. Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's a wrap on our Bad Batch breakdown series, the first season of Another Star Wars podcast content. Melissa just perfectly summarizes it all. So please stay tuned, stay engaged, and we'll talk with you guys soon. But thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys.
We do. We love you guys very much. Stay tuned for our content in the future, and may the Force be with you. See you guys.
See you guys.